Hey everybody, it's been a long time, but let's get into it. Elden Ring's a few months out, and until then, we gotta dissect the pieces of info FromSoft gives us. This first screenshot showcases several aspects of Elden Ring, with the two most prominent being Elden Ring's mounted combat and dragon boss encounters. We've seen in previous trailers that your mount plays a large part in not only helping you traverse the lands between, but assisting you in various combat situations. In a clip from the official gameplay trailer, we see your mount double jumping, which proves to be especially useful when fighting dragons, so it'll be interesting to see how these kinds of fights will evolve from previous FromSoft titles now that this mechanic is incorporated in Elden Ring. I can't help but wonder if these dragon boss encounters will have an element of aerial combat mixed in now that we as a player are not solely bound to ground combat. It'll be interesting to see exactly how many dragons Elden Ring will feature, as we've already seen 3 so far. The first being this dragon who has the power to wield lightning, with the second dragon being shown in this screenshot here. A brief glimpse of a third dragon in this clip makes it difficult to determine if it'll be a boss encounter, as it seems to have already perished. I say that because of the way it's touched by this character, which seems to suggest that they're mourning its death. This character also seems to be its own boss encounter, and that in itself raises some questions. Is your character responsible for slaying this dragon? And if so, is that what prompts the man to fight you? I guess we'll just have to wait and see, but I'd love to hear what all of you think. It's nice to know that FromSoft is using inspiration from all of their previous titles, but I guess it's not really a surprise when you consider the Moonlight Blade. It's definitely in FromSoft nature to grow and expand future titles while taking into consideration all they've made before it, and that brings me to this screenshot, which features enemies that look like they could be easily a part of the Bloodborne series. What caught my eye about this image is the background, where you can spot what look like tents, a campfire, and a banner, possibly signifying a camp of some sort. We know that Elden Ring will feature open world elements like encampments and carriages that the player will have the option of taking on for rewards, and this looks to be one of those encampments. Their design is also telling of the lord they serve, maidens whose primary arms are replaced with scythe-looking weapons and smaller, secondary arms holding pale babies close to them. Face masks are designed as if they're grieving, and intricate outfits with tarnished gold inlay that match perfectly with the golden distress banner tilted in the background. The sigil, while difficult to see exactly, looks very similar to this design, and I can't help but wonder how, if at all, are they connected. What is the significance of these babies whose paleness makes them stand out from the design of these enemies, and which lord do these maidens serve? Keeping with the Bloodborne theme, we see petrified humanoid creatures that look very similar to the messengers, looking up, perhaps worshipping a decrepit corpse sitting on a throne. It's possible this photo is showcasing a lord and their servants, and what's interesting is the angle of this photo. It makes it hard to determine if this white-hooded lord is a giant or if their servants are small, just like their messenger cousins featured in Bloodborne. Some hints, such as the background entrances and architecture, might suggest this character is bigger than the player, and the throne also seems to infer this as well. Speaking of the throne, the scale of it is another thing to note, but for a different reason. It also seems to have a cousin counterpart from another series, Game of Thrones. In the book series, the Iron Throne is said to be massive, and George R.R. Martin wanted the TV series to show this, but it ultimately became the version we all know. At this moment, it's hard to know if Martin designed this particular throne or if it was FromSoft's conception, but either way, the influence is there, intentional or not, and was something that stood out to me. This next image is interesting for several reasons, and I'm going to do a bit of speculating as well, so bear with me. We see this beast casting Elden Ring's version of sorcery in the form of a great axe. This is similar to the player casting a great sword and possibly hints at a potential spell the player can acquire for themselves. We also get a pretty good glimpse of this player's loadout from weapons to clothing. And it's always nice to see player variety when looking at a FromSoft game, because there's a subset of the community, myself included, that like to mix and match different pieces of armor to create new outfits. The weapons are a little harder to see, but we have what looks to be either a rapier or a cutlass in the player's right hand, a dagger on the player's hip, and an unknown weapon in the player's left hand. At first I thought it might be a torch, but after some thought, I don't know if the player would hold a lit torch so close to where the flame would be, and it could be a wand that the player uses for sorcery, but if you guys know or have a guess, I'd love to hear what you guys think. This next bit is pure speculation, so take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt. When I saw this image, it made me hope that FromSoft will dive headfirst into the fantasy element of Elden Ring to separate itself from any Soulsborne game that came before it. What I would like to see from Elden Ring, aside from creatures smart enough to wield sorcery, are creatures smart enough to talk to and to help the player through their journey. With the new movement mechanics, this can introduce another layer to NPC interactions if beast-like allies traverse the lands between and you as a player are able to follow right behind them. Hopefully we get to see that, but we shouldn't hold our breath either. Leave a like if you think that that'd be a nice addition to the game. What's less speculative is the dining hall in this screenshot. It's safe to assume the area is directly linked to these two characters seen in the game's trailers and is perhaps a location within their legacy dungeon. The player is the same from the previous screenshot, so it's possible the two areas are close to each other. They're also looking at a painting that's difficult for me to see exactly what it's depicting, but no doubt it offers a bit of insight to the lore of this castle and possibly the significance of arms. Maybe it has something to do with these maidens, but tell me what you guys think. And finally, we're at the last image, which is possibly the most cryptic of all the screenshots. We see a caster performing some type of ritual with some minions watching him, and it appears they're at some kind of sacrificial altar by the bone remains seen throughout. What's most eye-catching is the design of this spell. In the center we see the 3-ring design that's featured in the poster for the game, and as we move out there's a design that looks similar to the Celtic Trinity knot. When I looked up the meaning of the Trinity knot, I thought it was interesting that the symbology around it represents the mother, the maiden, and the crone. 3 goddesses that could also be featured in Elden Ring, but in different iterations. We can speculate that the maiden is this character here, an ally to the player and to all Tarnished. As for the mother or crone, either could refer to Queen Marika the Eternal, who rules the lands between, and as we know more about the lore of Elden Ring, we'll know exactly if Queen Marika is the mother of the lands between, or the crone, the malicious and sinister force responsible for the events transpiring. From there, we'll see who acts as the other. This is all speculation, but let me know what you think of this theory. And in the background of the spell's design is the Erd Tree. This one spell design tells the story of how the Elden Ring, 3 goddesses, and the Erd Tree are all related, and makes me wonder what this spell is supposed to achieve when also taking into consideration the minions and the dead remains. But for now, all we can do is wait and try to piece together all the hints and clues FromSoft and Miyazaki leave for us as the release of the game comes closer. That's going to wrap up this episode of Elden Ring News, and is the first of many, so leave a like and feel free to comment on any of the questions I posed in this episode. I'd love to hear what you guys think, and prove to me you know where the notification bell is by ringing it, so you can see the next episode as soon as it's released. It's been good taking this dive and speculating with you guys, and I'll be uploading more Souls content, so you can look out for that. Take care everybody, and I'll see you soon.